Welcome back. Bishop Walter Hanchel is highlighting the need for capital punishment. He says in the new year, we have seen an unprecedented level of brutal murders and that vigilante justice is growing on our streets. Bishop Hanchel says the Bible gives clear instructions on how to deal with murderers and reduced violence. It is clear in both the Old and New Testaments that convicted murderers should have their lives taken by the state and permanently removed from society. Bishop Walter Hanchel, who is chairman of the Citizens for Justice Bahamas, is demanding that laws regarding capital punishment be enforced expeditiously. Additionally, Bishop Hanchel said legislation must be enacted that will define the worst of the worst and ensure that the Privy Council is not allowed by law to rule against administrations of capital punishment in the Bahamas. It is also recommended that the Constitution of the Bahamas be amended to remove the Privy Council as our final court of appeal. With the national conversation centered on crime matters and the murder count being a cause for concern so far for 2024, reporters got a chance to hear from Minister of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, Gladys Hannah Martin, who is a lawyer by profession, on her thoughts with regards to calls for return to capital punishment. She believes Bahamians should move away from the idea of a return to the death penalty.
You know, realistically, I mean, it's the go-to at times like these, and I think even the Prime Minister in Jamaica gone to that. The reality is the jurisprudence is making it more and more unlikely that you're going to see executions anytime soon. I have to be realistic about it. I mean, I could join the bandwagon, make everybody feel happy, but I'm not that type. What we need to do, we have to find out. I'm one of those people. I'm from the school of thought that we need to find out what is happening in our country that is leading to the level of occurrence and recurrence of criminal behaviors that we're seeing in this country. Young people, our children, these are young people, children, our children coming through our school system and living in our communities. And it's all stakeholders. And I think that we should be more realistic about what needs to be done, because on that issue, I don't think, based on the history of it, you're not going to see it happen anytime soon.
Her comments came just before Prime Minister Philip Davis delivered a national address centered on the government's plans to combat the crime crisis. Minister Hannah Martin says all hands need to be on deck if the Bahamas is to overcome this crime issue.
So then if that's not going to happen, what are we going to do? Just say we want it? No. We have to see how we can shift the paradigm. This is what they're trying to do in schools now. They're trying to reorientate and help to socialize our young people. And then there's some other things that have to happen also. It's, in terms of how young people see opportunity in their own country. We got to look at that. And whether or not they feel as if there's anything out there for them, hopeless or whatever it is, we need to look at the entire spectrum of this dilemma. And that is what, in this ministry, that is what we're seeking to do. And all hands on deck.
In October of last year, United Nations experts called for a universal abolition of the death penalty, except in very limited circumstances, while complying with human rights obligations. Many citizens eagerly awaited the national address of Prime Minister Philip Davis on Sunday. And while some are pleased with the government's approach to addressing the high levels of crime, especially murders, and the use of illegal firearms, others say they were disappointed with the speech. During his speech, Prime Minister Davis made special mention on the issue surrounding bail, which has been a hot topic in recent times.
The issue of bail has been widely debated. This is understandable, given the fact that so many of the murders being committed are done so by those who are out on bail, and that those on bail themselves in turn become victims of murder. I understand the frustration and the blame shifting that have surfaced during these debates, but there are some realities which must be faced. A judge has the right to use his discretion when granting bail. Judges in the Bahamas, though, live in the Bahamas, and they know the truth of the statistics. Releasing these men on the streets is akin to a countdown to a death sentence.
The Commissioner of Police, Clayton Fernanda, has repeatedly called for stiffer regulations regarding bail, especially for repeat offenders of serious crimes. Prime Minister Davis says the judiciary, lawyers, and central government have a responsibility to address this issue of bail.
In this context, I think it important to address a troubling situation where we find repeat serious offenders being granted bail and either becoming victims of murder or perpetrating serious offenses while on bail. These, in my opinion, justify a more aggressive approach by the judiciary in denying bail in these cases. In my view, the prosecutors must likewise be more aggressive in appealing instances where bail is granted and the elements I've just described exist.
In November 2023, police statistics reveal that approximately 42% of murder victims were out on bail. And finally, on Monday, 3 17-year-old Bahamian baseball players signed contracts to join the Major League's Boston Red Sox during a signing ceremony at the office of the Prime Minister. Tavano Baker, Edwin Darwell, and Trent Wilson were accompanied by Prime Minister Philip Davis at the signing. Prime Minister Davis, who is an avid baseball fan, says the three young men are taking positive steps in their life during a time when other young men are being led astray.
This is a proud moment for me and for the Bahamas. Proud because it's always welcoming and heartening to see young men taking purposeful steps in their lives, particularly at a time like this when so many of our young men seem aimless and drifting without any purpose in life. There are very few of them, you know. I think there are more Edwin than there are the others. It's just that we have to continue to provide the opportunities for those to be able to do things that are positive in their lives.
The Prime Minister alludes to recent violent crimes and says it feels good to talk about progression of young men.
The last couple of weeks we have been lamenting over the senseless loss of lives amongst young people. And that's because they are aimless. And so it is good and very gratifying to be able to lift up the accomplishments of young men like Tavano Baker we saw before, and now Edwin Darwell, where they have a purpose in life, where they belong to a good gang. They belong to a gang. They're joining the gang of the Red Sox. And they'll be making positive contributions to themselves and to our lives.
The three players will likely be placed in the Red Sox developmental program as they work on their skills and hopefully one day join Jazz Chisholm on the Major League Baseball diamond. And that'll do it for your JCN Evening News. Once again, I'm Jarino Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us.